Hello, welcome to the stream. Today I am sitting down because I thought about standing, but I'm like, I am going to sit down. So hope you guys can hear me okay. If you're in the chat, you can just wave and say hi. That would be awesome. So I'll be looking out for that. So hi, Mike, by the way. Cool. Hi, Joaquin. Thank you guys for joining. So today, what I'm going to do is I am going to talk a little bit about UnoCSS. We're going to do some live coding, talk a little bit Tailwind, and then jump into an Amplify app. So I have some ideas on some Amplify stuff we can talk about. And of course, any Vue stuff, any questions that come up along the way, we will talk about that too. So this is, hey, what's up, Anderson? So thanks for joining again. So this is the second time I have done a live stream, so I'm still getting used to it. I really want, right now this is only on YouTube, I want to have this live streamed on Twitch as well. So if you guys have done that before, throw something in the chat room too, because that would be awesome. Okay, let's look at some code. How about it? All right. Okay. So here is UnoCSS. And if you guys have missed it, this is so crazy. I am always astonished when this happens. But if you look at my channel, go to your channel. This almost has 25,000 views. This is Tailwind, CSS no longer needed. So I definitely think a lot of people have been watching that video. If you have in the chat, let me know if you watched it. And in that video, I did an in-depth look at Tailwind and how it works. And then I looked at UnoCSS. So I'm really enjoying UnoCSS a lot. It's the instant on-demand atomic CSS engine. So for you guys who don't know anything about it, it kind of combines, it has a bunch of extensions that you can add to it. So if you look at the documentation right here, it has these things they're called presets, and it has Uno and Mini and Wind and Attributify, and it has all these really neat features so when you're writing CSS, it's just a little bit quicker. So the default preset is really a combination of preset Windy and preset Mini. And I didn't know this before starting. I've never used the Windy CSS. And a lot of people in the comments mentioned yeah, Windy CSS has all the utility classes that Tailwind has. So if you're familiar with Tailwind CSS, Windy CSS is an on-demand alternative to Tailwind, which provides faster load times, fully compatible with Tailwind version 2.0, and a bunch of additional cool features. So people in the comments were like, if I'm using Windy, why would I use UnoCSS? I'm like, well, yes, it's true that you can. One of the presets is basically adding in Windy CSS, and that adds in Tailwind. But one thing, it doesn't even just add in Tailwind. It also adds in. It adds in more than just Tailwind. You can it adds in Tachyon and a bunch of other things too, which I thought was really interesting. So it has some subtle differences from Windy CSS. So there's some changes here too. And it has different hover events as well. So it's not like UnoCSS is just Windy CSS renamed. There's a whole bunch of other things that it can do. And I was looking at Attributify, of how you can add attributes as classes. So I'll make this a little bigger. So it's almost like you're using style props in some ways. I thought that was really cool. It also has some presets that works really with iconography, which is really neat. Yeah, so I was definitely thought this was really neat. I think a lot of people agreed with that assessment as well. Cool. Let's see here. if anybody has any questions during this broadcast, feel free to leave a question or comment on it. I think if I'm going to use a new CSS utility framework, I'm just going to go with Uno. Like, I don't know why. Like, I know it has subtly different features than Windy CSS and Tailwind, but it just has so many presets. And if you look at the playground, I mean, the custom CSS it generates, the output CSS, it's just really slick. It only generates exactly what you need. I remember when I was using Tailwind a long time ago, obviously if you didn't set it up correctly, it would generate way too much CSS. Now it's much better. But I mean, it just looks and feels really nice, and it has so many different ways to do things. I like how you can do, I think this is a part of Tachyon that does this, where you can just put in like the size of it in here and it just does it for you. So I wonder if there you go. Like it's 100 pixels. So it kind of combines some really nice utility class frameworks, and you can use it all in one place. So I definitely think that's awesome. All right. I think we'll move on from UnoCSS right now. But those are kind of my what the general thoughts was. You know what? I'll do one more thing. There was quite a few comments here, so if you're listening, watching this on demand, I'll just go through a couple of them. So this seems like an easy way for teams to loosen consistency and styling rules. So there's a debate here. It's like one of my number one comments. Almost 200 people gave it a thumbs up on this, and this is interesting. First thing I said to myself, this looks like a great way to create a really confusing mess. My initial response to, if a project has access to Tailwind utility classes, I don't know why I'd ever want to bootstrap utility classes as well. Yeah, especially how P-3 in Bootstrap is equivalent to P4 in Tailwind for utility classes, whatever framework library, but don't benefit them. I'm good on this. On solo projects, agreed. They should have options for disabling what you don't plan to use. Bootstrap's still relevant today because what it's made for a quick UI build. I know I don't entirely agree with this. This seems like an easy way to team to lose consistency. I think anytime something new comes out, I get a lot of people kind of coming out of the woodwork being like, why would I ever use this? I hate this. I don't think, I think it's just another tool in your toolbox, and you don't necessarily have to use it. And if you do use it though, I don't think this is confusing. I like to have more utility classes, especially for someone that's used Tailwind in the past, and being able to use like Bootstrap classes and Tachyon and all those. I think that just makes sense. Especially if you're quickly scaffolding a project, I think it works really well. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Mike said, Tailwind before the just-in-time compiler was nuts. Your CSS file would be like 4 megs. Exactly, yeah. So they definitely added in the JIT compiler, and if you didn't set up set up correctly, you would have this ginormous CSS file, and that has been fixed in the last couple of years, but it definitely wasn't as good as it used to be, at least working locally. Hey Faisal, been using UnoCSS for production apps powered with preset wind, no issues so far. Yeah, so I don't think so either. Tailwind CSS is my professional choice. It gives me everything I need. Yeah, I think this is definitely what I agree with. I agree. A lot of people love Tailwind CSS. I'm not trying to say it's worse or bad or anything. It's just I think this is another tool that you can use. Thanks for making this video. I'm sure creators have the reasons for building this, but I can see this is something bringing more chaos than value. If you need 3 different engines in your project, you're making a terrible design choice. Oh man, thank you for doing this. I've been wondering what some of the advantages of using this, everything like Tailwind. Do you know if Uno works with arbitrary selector values from Tailwind? Yes, it should support everything. Yep. So some people already answered this. And you can also put like custom values in. A lot of people use UnoCSS for their projects. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but I guess this is a little contentious. I think that's probably why so many people watch this video. It's a little contentious of do you need Tailwind CSS? And also probably the naming of this, a lot of people are like, man, why, do I need to stop using Tailwind? But I think it's definitely worth trying. Let me look at another comment here. So I think it can coexist in your project, but CSS like text 30 pixels, simple it is. Can you mess with it? Yeah, you can. I think I understand what you're asking. But yeah, like in this example here, you can change this to 15. This is just a utility class that I think is a part of Tachyon. That will be available since you're using the Uno preset. So a little controversy on this video, but I'm happy with it. I think most people understand that it's you know, it's not for everyone, but I think it's good. Oh, one thing I want to change here. I wonder. Okay. Now I have I'm a little circle here. Cool. Okay, let's keep moving on here. To be consistent. Oh, so you're saying, okay, I'm looking at the chat right now. Yeah, it's important definitely to be consistent. So you want to, let me talk about this for a second. You want a strategy when you're creating your CSS inside your app. And so the strategy can be that you're going to use a certain CSS technology. You're going to use Sass, or you're going to have certain style sheets. You're going to use BEM, or maybe you're going to use these utility classes. And I think if you go with the utility class structure and you're using scoped components, meaning in other words that your styles aren't going to be leaked out from one component to another, I definitely think Tailwind is a perfectly fine way of doing things, and using something like CSS works, and you can be consistent. I think that's one thing you just have to, like if you're in a project with multiple people and you're using something like UnoCSS, there's probably needs to be some discussion on what sort of presets are going to be available and what sort of presets you're not going to use. So if someone comes new to this project for UnoCSS, and we'll bring it up again, and we'll go to the documentation. And let me see if I can find the right documentation. Right here. There's going to needs to be some conversations about what presets we're going to use, what's kind of the style we're going to use. But after that, I don't think it's that big of an issue that it's like you're going to lose a bunch of consistency in styling. Now, someone could prove me wrong, and if you do, leave a comment below or put in the chat. But I feel like as long as there's some guidelines of what presets you're using and how you're going to structure your CSS beforehand, maybe you're going to use this attributify, maybe you're just going to use normal classes, class names, then I think you can, it should be fine there. And obviously if someone's going in and like resetting styles, there needs to be more conversation and talk with it of what to do. Okay. I think that's enough on the UnoCSS talk for right now. Oh, someone, Anik, said in the chat room that there was some problems with using WebStorm with it. I'm not familiar with WebStorm. I use VS Code, but that could be a possibility. Like if you have some developers using WebStorm and some VS Code and you don't have the right extensions for both, maybe using something like UnoCSS may not be the right choice for you. All right, what I kind of wanted to do in this next part of the live stream, and thank you for everyone that's joining and everybody that's watching after the fact, is I've been thinking about like a fun app to build during the stream, and I've come up with some ideas. So here's my Notion document. And a couple of things that I like to maybe build on stream with you guys, and then of course answer any questions, is YouTube analytics. So like maybe creating, like, I don't know if you guys, there's probably way more than this, but if you look at Social Blade, this website is not my favorite. It's kind of, it does what it's supposed to do, but there's a lot of ads everywhere. It's kind of ugly. I don't think it even looks very good on mobile, if I remember correctly. Let's see here. Let's see here. Of course, I think people scrape this site all the time, so they're always checking, doing this check. And you can see here, it's not even really responsive at all. I was like, wonder if there's a way, just on fun for a stream, or a few streams probably, to create something similar to this. So we would have to connect to the YouTube API and try to play around with the YouTube API. We'll use all Amplify services, so I could show you guys what sort of Amplify services you would need for this. We can host it using Amplify hosting. We can maybe even put in UnoCSS or a different type of framework added in there, and I think that would be interesting. Oh yeah, Mike, definitely. Anthony Fu, if you don't follow Anthony Fu, he has so many different projects that he's worked on, especially in the Vue ecosystem, like VTest, Vue.use, UnoCSS, Vue Next, Vite, WindyCSS. He's a team member, WindyCSS, and others. He also VTest, which is like his. Every time I look it up, I get like, I don't know, for people not in the United States, a soccer club, but it's in GitHub. It's an opinionated Vue starter template. I've used so many of his things, and I could probably do a few more videos on some of the work he's done. Anyways, I was thinking like maybe this would be kind of a fun project to do on stream. The problem with this project is it would be to just get like something out of the box. I'd probably have to do a bunch of YouTube API work, and it may be like the simple use case of just grabbing data from my YouTube channel and listing it in this type of format with the date, the views, the ratings. Might be a little simple, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence if this is like a project I really want to work on. And then I kind of came up with some other ideas. Linktree. So that might be a fun app idea to do on stream with you guys. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm going to be starting to do probably weekly or every other week streams. I hope I have some travel coming up, so things are going to be interrupted. I'll be in Seattle in a couple of weeks, and then I will be in Atlanta, possibly New York, and New Orleans for VueConf US. So I'm going to be traveling a little bit, but in between the travel, I'm hoping to do these live streams and talk to everybody here about it. But another thing I want to try to do, but in between that, I want to start building little apps and show some more demos of using Amplify. But we also might dip our toe into MongoDB, PlanetScale, some other services as well, and while we're going through this. But Linktree is kind of interesting. I was looking up like what's happening with Linktree, and I wonder if like it would be a fun project to create like a Linktree type app. So I think like if you don't know what Linktree is, it's a way for anybody to create like a landing page, but the landing page just has links to other things that people are interested in. So like Katy Perry has stuff on some of her songs, and like most people use it for like their YouTube channel, their Twitter, their personal homepage, things like that, or just kind of things that they're interested in. Like this one, Jack Elefante, a lot of artists use it. I keep on seeing it all over Twitter. A lot of people have it in their profiles. They'll have a link.tree. So I thought maybe fun to like create a really basic Linktree app and then go from there. So it's another idea that I have. Let me check this chat for a second. Yeah, I hope he adds more support for WebStorm. Okay, another thing, an idea is like a pricing page. So you can like create some sort of pricing page. Like my buddy, Web Dev Simplified, he just released a new course, and if you look at his courses, now this is all through Podia, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom, like this type of pricing tree, I wonder if we can create an app that would generate this pricing tree for people. Like just have some default styles and default look and feels. Or maybe I just try to recreate this using the UI components framework, because I think that would be interesting. Or I can create this using Figma and use the Figma to UI feature with Amplify. That might be interesting. There's also an idea that these type of learning pages, there's whole services now that are just meant for people who want to create these, or your sponsorships or something like that. So that's another idea that I have. Then there's always the quintessential blog. Everybody creates blogs. And then my buddy Florin Pop, who also has a YouTube channel, although he doesn't post as much, he has a whole GitHub repository of like fun project ideas. So maybe even doing something like this is worthwhile. And the idea would be is I just do it live here on the channel, like without really any prep, and we would just kind of like play around. I'll make mistakes. Things will probably go slowly, but it'd be fun to do, and it'd probably be something to take a few times to get through. This is cool too. In Notion, you can do /ask to AI, right? So I can be, show me 5 ideas for apps created with AWS Amplify using Amplify Lambda function. Well, using that would use AWS's Lambda functions and AWS Amplify's UI component library. Let's see if it can do this. So what Team Money's asking, what is a UnoCSS? So UnoCSS, we were just talking about earlier this stream, is a library that's created by Anthony Fu that is an atomic CSS engine that allows you to use utility CSS classes inside of it. But what makes it a little different, some things like Tailwind, is that it includes Windy CSS, and so you can use not just Tailwind, but things like Tachyon, like Bootstrap. All the utility classes from those can also be used with UnoCSS. It has presets that you can do attributes and things like that. It's pretty neat. Okay, it gave me 5 ideas here. Serverless chat API, a chat app that uses AWS Lambda functions to handle the backend logic. Serverless social media app, a social media app that uses AWS Lambda function to handle the backend logic. And AWS Amplify UI component library for the front-end components. Serverless e-commerce app, an e-commerce app that uses AWS Lambda functions to handle the backend logic, and AWS Amplify UI component library for the front-end components. Serverless blog app, a blog app that uses AWS Lambda function to handle the backend logic, and AWS Amplify UI component for the front-end components. Serverless to-do app. So I don't, like, everybody does the blog and to-do apps. I feel like those I wouldn't want to do. Serverless e-commerce app. Yeah, I mean, e-commerce, social media, these are all kind of really generic. I know, something to think about too. But let's create an app, and we'll kind of go from there, and then we may be able to, once we create this app, kind of think of what direction we want to go. And if you have, Uno is the one or first one in Spanish. Yep, that's what Uno means. I don't know if you guys, anybody play Uno? I used to play that all the time when I was a kid. Actually, my kids love playing it now. You just slap down the cards. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. All right. Getting a little off topic here. Okay, I'm going to open up VS Code. So I have an older app here, but now the thing is, before we get started, let's think about what sort of technologies we want with this app. So, I mean, we have Next, but we could use Vite, and I think we're going to use React for this app. You know, I love Vue, but I think for this one we want to use React, but we could always like play around with Vue and other little smaller apps if we want to. So I think between these two, because I want to show, because we do have has Amplify hosting, and it does support Next with server-side rendered API routes. So that might be kind of fun to add in. If anybody in the chat room has suggestions, let me know. So I could do that. And then I think with Amplify, any kind of app I create, we'll do Amplify hosting. We can kind of start it off with Studio and then add Amplify UI components in. And then maybe Lambda functions. That could be something. Maybe. I think definitely authentication with Cognito would make sense. And then for storage, we can use S3 if we need to store anything. So we'll just do a completely AWS stack as much as we can for this app. And I think that would be interesting. Hey, Jason, yeah, we'll do some Vue a little bit later. We talked a little bit about UnoCSS and Vue, but I think we might do React for this app today. That's true. We could, another comment, we could do Nux 3. That would be interesting as well for this app that we're going to create. The only problem with using Nuxt or Vue would be if we look at the component library for Amplify, the Vue version doesn't support connected components, or it supports connected components, but it doesn't support our UI components library. And I kind of want to show that off, but maybe we can create, part of this process, we can create some mini apps in using Vue and Nuxt to see how those work. So that might be fun too. All right. Steve is also, if you guys are interested in podcasting, there's Views on Vue. Hopefully I will be on it tomorrow. Right, Steve? So this is a podcast that we talk about Vue, and I will be on it. But today we might look more React, and I apologize. Okay, where were we? Yeah, let's go back to Notion. So I think we're going to do probably Next. And then we'll do an Amplify stack. And I'm thinking maybe just for now, I want to say, what if we just try to build an app that you have to log in and then it shows a Linktree and then you can add in your own links. That'd be interesting. So maybe I wonder if we should use Excalibur for this. So let's say you log in. So this is the user. I've been watching a lot of Theo, and he's amazing at this, so I am not as amazing at Excalibur. So that's me, but let's make that more generic. This is the user. And then let's say you will have Cognito here. This is a terrible drawing, but let's say we'll have a user here. We'll log in. It's gonna have a login, and then so this will be logged in with Cognito. And I don't know, this will be Cognito, and then once we're logged in, we'll be shown a page to add links. Yeah, I'm thinking something like this. And then once we add links, then this will go to a page that has, we'll show a preview of it. And I can write a better diagram a little bit later, but I just want to kind of get this down of what I'm thinking right now. And then we'll use UI components. This will all be done by Amplify UI components. So let's just create some infrastructure right now, and then we'll see how far we can get in the next 20, 30 minutes. Yeah, let's see. Let's see how we get. All right, so we're going to start with a Next.js project. So we're going to use probably create Next.js app. You can see here, you can do npx create next app latest. Let's see here. Okay. And then we'll probably install this. All right, we'll call this app. I think we're going to do a Linktree. So I'll do Linktree. We'll call it just Linktree. And of course, we'll have TypeScript. You know, let's just, we're not going to use Tailwind CSS on this project. Would you like to use the source directory? Sure. We're not going to use the app. And we'll just do all defaults here. And so we'll get up and running. And so while that's working, we can look back at our UI components. So in React, what I think we're going to do is we'll need to set up through Amplify Studio. Make this a little bigger. So we'll use Amplify Studio to create a new backend app that has authentication and authorization. And see, maybe before the end of the stream today, we can at least get some of this infrastructure in, and that we can log in and we can see something on there. And we'll try that out. Okay. So let's go to this Linktree, and I'm just going to open this folder up. Now I'm using Windows here just because my other computer's a Mac, and I have this one for gaming, and then I also do my program tutorials on here. So please don't kill me here. But here, I'll just open it up here. All right, and this is live stream and Linktree. So if we just run npm start, localhost 3000. Oh, and we'll do npm run dev. We'll run that first. Let's close this. Let's see here, localhost 3000. Cool. So our next app is running in source pages index.tsx. So to get Amplify running, we need to install a few things. So let's install AWS Amplify and AWS Amplify UI React. And this will set up Amplify, all the Amplify libraries we need. And then we'll make sure that it works here in a second. Let's go to our source index page. So wow, lots of things here. We can call this Linktree app. And here is an image, a bunch of stuff. I just think we're gonna just delete this all. So I'll go and delete it. And my ESLint is really slow, but it should save. Okay, so it said it installed correctly there. Let's see here. And let's try npm run dev. And let's delete this, delete this. I don't know, I guess we can leave these styles. I don't probably want these styles. So maybe we can delete. Let's see what it looks like. And we'll go here. We have this documentation. is this? App file. Let's see if we just do a hello world. Can we see it? Okay. There's our hello world. So we know that's working. And in our app file, let's import in our AWS Amplify UI React styles.css. And then we'll go back to the index. And let's see if we can import in our header from AWS Amplify UI React. And instead of having H1 here, let's see if we can change this to a header. And do we have autocomplete through TypeScript? It's thinking. Let's restart the TS server. See if that helps fix things. So right now I'm just trying to see if the AWS Amplify UI React library is working the way I expect it. And then we don't have any errors. So why are you using npm and not npm? That's a good question. I went from npm to Yarn, and I really love Yarn, and we use Yarn at my work. And then I looked at pnpm and a few other things, and I'm like, I just don't care as much right now. So I'm using npm, and that's about it. Let's see here. Is my auto completion? Okay. Level header. Did I misspell this? Heading? Oh, it's heading. Oops. Let's do this. Level. Okay, there it goes. Now I need 3. So let's see what this looks like. I could probably make this a little smaller. Hello world. I don't know. Let's see here if I can get this aligned correctly. All right. I kind of have the font pretty high, but so I have a hello world here. If I have a button, I can import that. And so this is all part of the UI primitives library. Press me. And if I save that, cool. So there's a press me button. So I do not like these styles, but maybe we can correct that. Styles.main. Oops. I am messing up. So home.module CSS main. Yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to delete all this and then go back to the top, and I guess it's like centering everything in the middle of the page. Let's see here. Is there any other CSS in here? Global CSS? Oh my. I'm going to just delete all of this. Okay. So now there's a lot of CSS in here. I don't know what any of this does, or I haven't looked through any of this. So I'm just going to delete it. I guess we can leave the max width and border radius. I don't know. We can put some padding here of, I don't know, 2 rem. Okay. Kind of like that a little better. I see. And then if we do, I see, it's display effects. We can do, let's see, flex direction column. And now it's kind of weird looking. I don't know. Maybe we'll come back to this part. All right. And we could, one thing we can do is we can add a variation to this. So let's make it primary. All right, so it's looking a little nicer just for our Hello World app here. It doesn't really do anything, but at least we know that we have this in here. Okay, let's see if so we know we have the UI components library installed correctly, and we have our JavaScript library, because if we go to package.json and look at our dependencies, we also have the AWS Amplify right here. So that's good. So I'd say before we get too far, let's see if we can connect this to a backend. Obviously, these don't do anything. Question in the chat. Do you think there's a way to use a Flask server with React.js files and then in the React app, fetch the files and run it in the browser? I do not know. I have never used a Flask server. I'm sure you could, though. I don't think that's impossible. That doesn't sound too bad. All right, so I'm going to AWS Amplify. We're going to create a new AWS Amplify app. We're going to use Amplify Studio. So if this is the first time watching this tutorial, you can sign up for like the AWS free tier. It's 1 year. You get hundreds of hours of services and uses and a whole bunch of these different things, these different services. But it's also really nice because especially if you're using like Lambda functions or anything that's on demand, then you are only paying like per hour or per minute. So it's really fairly cheap even after the free plan. So AWS Amplify, you can basically get started for free. So we're going to start the AWS Amplify here. And I'm on US East 1. And hopefully it loads here, but I might need to log in again. There we go. So I'm going to get started. And it's nice. When you first start, it asks you a question if you want to use Amplify Studio or Amplify Hosting. We're going to probably use Amplify Hosting at some point. We definitely will, but I just want to start with get started here. So I'm going to call this Linktree live stream, I guess. Well, we'll just call it Linktree. And confirm deploy. And this will start setting up everything in this Amplify Studio. And if you don't know, you can go to the docs again. And if you click on docs up here and then go to Studio, the Studio tells you that Amplify Studio is a visual development environment for building full stack web and mobile apps. So if we go back to what we're doing here, we look back at our Notion document. I got too much stuff open. And where is it? Right here. You know, I think we're going to try to build this link tree right here. And first thing we need to do is see if we can get a user to log in, add links, and show preview. So the first steps of that is to create our backend. So what I want to do to get this working, based on my drawing, which I'll move over here, is try to get this preview working with Amplify UI components. So I want to get this login part working. So we're making progress here. If there's any questions in the chat room, feel free to chat. Feel free to leave a question in the chat. I will answer it for you while we're doing this. Okay, so it looks like it's done. We're gonna click Live Launch Studio. And this will show our studio, which takes a second to load. All right, welcome to Linktree's environment. So I want to add in authentication. So we're gonna click authentication here. It's gonna ask you what type of login mechanism. Let's see if you can see it here. So we're just gonna leave it on email. And we may need I don't think we're gonna add any of this multi-factor authentication or any additional attributes for right now. We're just gonna deploy. So confirm deployment. And this will create all the Cognito backend user pools that we need. And then we're going to use the Visual Studio code to pull that in. And then we may even look at some other things to our Authenticator app. One thing we need to do while this is working is we'll need to make sure we have the CLI installed. So if we go back to our documentation, if you use Studio, you need the CLI. And you just basically run this npm install tacg at aws/CLI, and that will install the CLI that we need. I already have it installed. One thing always to do is if you're using Amplify, I always run this Amplify upgrade every now and then, and that'll just make sure I have the latest version of the Amplify CLI. I already have the latest CLI version. Okay, let's look at this again while we're kind of waiting. Localhost 3000. We'll go back to the index. I wonder, so we have this hello world and button variation here. I wonder what kind of routes we should think about while using this. Because I know we have this API, which right now it just returns John Doe. So I wonder if it, so if we go /API here, we don't have anything. Oops. But we can, oh, API hello, that's what it is. So if we go /API/hello, yeah, you can see it's already working just locally. So I don't know. If we have a link page, we'd probably want a couple of different routes, and we can use this module approach for our CSS. So I don't know, we'll have a folder. Yeah, we can add folders. Maybe we have one for links. And then we'll probably need to create like a dynamic route at some point. That way someone's name, like someone creates an app, they get a certain name added to it, and then that'll show up. But I think right now we'll just add links. Let's create a new file here. Let's see here. We could export default function links. Return. Let's do heading level 2. And then we'll add this in. Hello from links. And it's mad at me. Why is it mad? React refers to UMD global, but the current file is a module because they're adding import instead. What did I miss here? Do I need to add something? Okay, we'll come back. I have a question in the chat to that. So what do you recommend for component testing? So for component testing, I really like the React testing library. So I think that is kind of the way to go. I like testing library in general, and React testing library is the way I would go by it. So, and it uses, believe Jest in the background. You can use it without Jest, but Jest is their preference. So that's what I would use. All right, we'll come back to this problem with the link. For a second, I'm going to copy this. So it created our backend, and I should be able to paste it in, and it should create everything, all the files we need in the front end here. Oh, thank you, someone. And it makes me log in here. Someone mentioned I need to do .tsx, so I will do that. I messed up. Yes. Cool, successfully logged in. So now it's gonna ask me a few questions. We'll do VS Code, JavaScript, React, source. Yep. We'll just hit enter all the way through here. And this will pull in this backend that we just created. And let's go back and fix that issue. I do have a .tsx here. Let's try this. I'm probably doing something wrong. Would this work? I'll see what I'm doing wrong here. I haven't used Next in a while, but we'll take a look. Okay. No app sync. Okay, so what it did now is it created this new Amplify folder. So this has all the backend configurations for auth and everything else that we need. We don't really need to do much here, but it did create one thing in the source folder. It created a new AWS exports file, which we can now import in. So we'll need to do that. So I'm going to go into the app file. Now import in, and I believe we'll call AWS exports, has default export. And we'll go down here. So here's AWS exports, and then we'll need to import in. Let's put it right here. Amplify from the AWS Amplify folder, and then we'll run amplify.configure, and we'll pass in AWS exports. So this should be now configured with AWS exports. And now if we go back to index.ts, let's go to this one. I keep going to the wrong one. This one. Now we should be able to import in the authenticator. So let's see if we can import that in. So instead of having this button here, we're going to add in the authenticator. And this should allow a way for you to log in. But we want to make sure that after you log in, you can log out. And what I always do is I always copy and paste the code here. So I'm going to go connect. I'm going connected components, authenticator. And this code, actually I could just grab the whole thing. And then I'll delete this. And then, it, by the way, it doesn't like user here. Okay. So what this is doing is this is saying that after a user logs in, they're going to see everything in between the opening and closing brackets of the authenticator. So we're going to show the username and the button to sign out. I'll make this a button. There we go. And then this has a variation, which is all in the documentation, by the way. So primary. So this will allow us to log in, log out. And let's say we'll only show this hello world. Oh, we don't need these two. We'll just delete these two completely. Okay. I'm just looking at the chat for a second. Oh, you can't see the folders? Yeah, my head's in the way, isn't it? Let's see here. Can I change this? So here are the folders. This is the Amplify folder I was talking about earlier, where it's has all your backend configuration. This was when we pulled it from Amplify. This is what was created. All right. Yeah, maybe I'll do this. Make it a little smaller. Or I'll run npm run dev. Let's see if this works. Okay, back on localhost 3000. I'll reset it. Hey Rupali. Hey Baywar. Hi Mike Seeks Truth. Thanks for joining the live stream today. Okay, it's way big. So now I should be able to create an account. I'm going to use an old email address I have. And I'm going to log in. Now it's going to ask me for a code. I'm going to use my other screen here. And I'm going to add this in. Confirm. All right, so log me in. Cool. So I see here my hello. This is the username, just internal. And sign out. I wonder, I believe, go back to the index page. I think there's an email here too. Okay, there's attributes.email. So then I could do that instead. Yeah, so that goes to the email. But I'll just leave it as the username. Just for now. and then sign out. Cool. So now I should be able to sign back in. So I'm going to put in my email address. All right. I got this working. Now if I look in Amplify Studio, they have this user management, and you can see it. Cool. So it has my user in here, and I can delete it or update it. And that works. And I don't have anything content or anything else. So that's the first step that we wanted to do, is to create a way for someone to log in. And then we can essentially only have logged in users use our service. All right, well, let's look at our diagram again in Excalibur. So we have this part done. So now we need a way to like add links and then have a way to preview it on the other side. So first, I think what we'll probably, let's take a look here. Let me see if I can figure this out. So what am I doing wrong here, I guess, is the question. Actually, now I don't have any errors. Maybe I have to restart it. It's fine now. Sometimes you have to always restart VS Code. So does this work? If I go /links. Oh, okay, it says hello world. Let's do hello world 1, 2, 3. Maybe let's restart the TS server. Yeah, I mean, it's updating. Not sure why my TypeScript isn't happy with this. I'm sure it's something simple I'm missing. Maybe once it comes back up, it'll tell me if I have any issues. We can do some theming too, I suppose, before we get too far into the link part of creating the link tree. So I can see this button here. Let's add a theme file. So the whole UI components library right here, these components, there's a pretty robust theming system that uses design tokens. If I go to right down here to theming. And so we can add in a theme object and then have that work. So I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to copy paste this. So first, I think what we want to do to add this theme object is inside this file here is I'm going to add in, and I think we'll have to import in Amplify. Actually, I think it's called theme provider. And then instead of returning this component here, we'll just surround it in this theme provider. Theme provider. All right. And now in this theme provider, we can create a new file. So I don't know. I have a links folder. I'll probably just put in the source. I'll do new file theme.ts. Well, maybe I could just do this by hand. I'll do export. Well, let's do export const theme, and we're going to use, it's all TypeScript aware, and we're going to use it, type it as theme. And we'll need to add the theme in. Let's see if it knows what it is. Yeah, there it is. So some theme right here, and right away it says we need to add a name. So we'll call this, is going to be our link tree. So we'll add it Linktree. I don't know. And then from here we can change the look and feel of our components, and we can also add colors. So if maybe this is something we're not going to do today completely, but if we start adding in a theme for our app, maybe we don't want the buttons this kind of blue color, we want them a different color. So I think it's good to kind of get this set up right now. So I'm going to go back into the app. I'm going to import that in. I think I did a default import. Did I do a default import? Yeah, default no. It's named import. So I'll do theme from theme. There it is. And then I'm just going to add a theme provider here. And add in theme there so it's connected. And just to make sure it works, I'm going to go in here and we can override the look and feel of all our colors, things like that. But really, we're going to override the tokens. And I think we'll just do components right now. So I'm going to do buttons. And we're going to look for primary. I think it's called primary. Yep. And then we can change the primary. It's kind of hard to see right there, but we'll do color. And this will have a value. And I'm just going to make it let's make it orange. Okay, so now it changed the color of the text to orange. For that, we can also, I think you can do background color too. We can make this really ugly looking. So maybe we'll make this purple. Okay, you can see now it's a kind of a big purple sign out button. Obviously, we won't keep it like this, but it's good to know that we can change the look and feel of our whole application through here. Awesome. And you can see the hover effect is still this green color. I wonder if we can, do we have a hover? And we can do the background color hover as something, maybe make that a darker purple. And let's see if we can make it yellow. Would that work? Hold on. Hover, background color. Do we need a value here? Yeah, value. Let's try that. So now it's purple. But if we wanted a different cover effect, we can make it, let's just make it orange. So now it hovers in orange. Question from the chat. Sebastian asks, hi Eric, I'm looking for a VS Code extension that writes a comment at the ending of tag or brackets. Know of anyone here? I don't know of any, but I'm sure there's some comment extensions that you could look through. There's better commenting. There's comment tracker, translate. I don't know. You'd have to kind of take a look a little closer. I'm sure you can find one. It looks like this is better. So let me change this to heading. Heading. And then we'll change this to level equals 2. And then we go to /links. Cool. So now it's looking okay. So another thing we need to do too is, like, technically when someone logs in, you probably want them to, when someone logs in, you want to protect certain routes, but I think, and we probably have like a separate page, like a hero header, and then someone would have to log in, and this would be on a separate route. So I'm wondering, like, for right now, this is fine. I wonder if I should move this authenticator so it surrounds the whole app instead. We could do something like that. So there's another way we can handle this. Let's play around with it. So if I can kind of comment this whole thing out right now. And now I just have nothing here. But if I go into the app TSX file, I have something called with authenticator. And so I can surround my whole app with it. So I can do something like this. I can make function app here, export default with authenticator, and then I pass in the app here. And then if I wanted to, I could add in extra stuff here. But now the whole app is surrounded. So if I refresh this, okay, so now the whole app is surrounded by it, so you can't really go anywhere until you log in. So if we go to /links, well, I think, yeah, so it's protected. The route is protected, so it still makes you log in. So if I go IC Storm, this is the one I created earlier. Okay, so now I'm in here. So that might work for what we're trying to do. Just so we don't have to worry about everything. Yeah, now on this page here, in our index TSX source pages, I don't need this, but I could have this in here, which that's not what I wanted. Let's see, can I delete this? There we go. And then let me move this out. Like this, maybe? Now we have two mains. We don't need this main here. Oh, now to grab information from the user object, we'll fix that. But hello there. And then we'll have to add in a sign out as well. So to add sign out in, there is a couple ways we can do this inside the UI Studio. I always forget, we can go to headless usage. And this allows you to grab the sign out button. But you do have to surround the app by authenticator.provider. So this is another little thing we need to do. So there is authenticator provider. Is that what it is? Oh, never mind. That is authenticator. And then we surround this by authenticator.provider. Then inside our index.tsx file, we should be able to use this use authenticator. And we can delete this. And now this use authenticator, I believe we can grab data out of the home, like user and sign out. So let's see, hello there, user dot username. All right, let's see if we did that right. Okay, I don't see any errors here. All right, cool. So we have this, click sign out. Now we can log back in. All right, now we still have it. It's all working correctly. All right, okay, I think I'm gonna end now. So I think this is a good start to our Linktree app. Now we're able to log in to our app. Everything's protected, the whole app. We set up a little bit of our backend, but I think the next thing to do in the next video is to see if we can maybe make a database that shows a list of links and then show those links on the page. I think that would be a good way to go. And also after you log in, maybe it redirects to the links page. Let's try that. So thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. I'm going to end the stream now. Bye.